and she's come to love this person not as a lover, but as a friend.
Cool. And
And Cersei's saying our audio's not working.
yeah, I saw that. So we're gonna just go back to your original questions, and I'm gonna ask you them a little bit over again. Um, so what inspired you to create Oola Tann, and how did you decide on being a Lethan Twi'lek um, Jedi Padawan, basically, right at the beginning? Like, what made you decide that?
Well, to create Ula, I have wanted to be a um, a Padawan for a long time. Uh, it's been many years that you and I have role played together, and I've only got to do the first part of being a Padawan, and usually our role plays end up progressing her faster. So, I was looking forward to being a Padawan and learning the from the ground up. As far as being Lethan, that's a personal quirk of mine. I in Star Wars Galaxies, where I started, I didn't didn't realize at the time due to lore that being red would mean that she would be an outcast of her people. I just thought they were pretty. So to lessen that slightly is why she became pink instead of red. Um,
Why'd you ask me here? I don't like you and you
and
don't like
I
me.
forgot the other parts
That's
of the
right.
question.
But you annoy
No,
me
that's
more
okay.
than you
Actually,
like
that
me.
moves right into the
I
next
don't like you
question
now.
very well.
But that
Actually,
makes you feel
when you're building a
all the
character,
same.
what comes first
Let
for
me
you?
see.
Was it the personality, the backstory, or was it like
And we're on it.
the gameplay mechanics that were being set forth? Like since we do play Star Wars: Edge of the Empires, was that like the driving force for you? The timeline that we placed you in, or did you already kind of have like a character in mind that you wanted to play?
Well, it's kind of a mix of all of it, except the bio. My bios come as I play, answering questions as people ask them, and then
Testing, buddy.
they become part of her story. But personality wise, a lot of times I stick to my original character um, because I've never really gotten to got into the
They don't
depth
look
of
friendly.
a character or every part of their personality. So each one of my
Do what you gotta
characters
do, buddy.
actually is a part of
Always
Rai
on point.
Marunji's, my original weapon, her her story, her personality, and I've just learned to build upon it.
Cool. And how much of yourself do you think ended up in Ula, and how much is completely different from you as the person?
Well, obviously, looks is totally different. I'm not a Twi'lek by any means, but personality-wise, we were talking about this earlier, and I was saying 50-50. But now that you expressed to me the part about the fact that my maternal instincts kick in as well, I'm going to go with 75-20. That it's 75% me, 20% what I would love it, what I would like it to be to make it different from myself.
All right. And was Ula's name or look inspired by an existing Star Wars character or Twi'lek lore?
That.
Actually, neither. I do know that there was an Oola, a
This
Twi'lek in the movies.
thing.
The reason I
So
chose the name was
a
using
priceless
the real
moment.
dictionary
A
and
key
remembering
we have
that the
been
word Ula
searching
means
for.
water. I have an affinity for
Except
water.
yours
Normally, my characters will have an affinity for
is
water. So
back.
thus the name Ula. Tan just popped up as a name.
Okay. And what's your process for developing a character's moral compass or something that guides her principles. Especially in our story arc where we've had a few time skips and you start off as a Padawan and now that you're a Jedi Knight, what's kind of guiding her principles now that she's navigating more difficult situations as time goes on?
A lot of that would be the fact that she was trained from the age of 10 at the Jedi Temple. So most of her training would um, be her background. The fact that she is empathetic, compassionate, and that she's very, um, I'm not going to say maternal in this instant, but that she's very proactive in protecting her charges or anybody that's with her. That's where her compass comes in. She's a practitioner of Shicho, and that is a defensive, mostly defensive, lightsaber form.
Okay, and just to kind of put you on the spot, out of your peers who are on your Oola's crew, who is Oola's favorite and who's the one that she doesn't trust?
Her favorite, actually, is our doctor, and I can't remember her name.
Ni-Ella?
Yes, Ni-Ella. She is Ula's favorite. Um, I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's because they see more eye to eye than Ula seems to. Of course, she doesn't understand the droid HX, and I get it right.
Yeah, you didn't call him what do you normally call him?
HK.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's definitely not HK.
Like I said, she sees more eye to eye with Niella. I think it's the compassion side, the wanting to take care of people, and the fact that Niella is easy to talk to for Ula and easier to understand. Now, um, I'm going to say the one that she understands the least and kind of tries to stay away from happens to be our ambassador.
Oh, you mean Cersei's in our chat right now? Aw.
Yeah. Um,
Now we see how she feels.
but not Cersei. It's her
I know.
character.
I know.
Just making sure that we say that because that's the truth. Is because she doesn't understand her. She doesn't. There's something about her that is duplicitous. I think that's the word, and that makes Ula not trust her. Plus the fact that she keeps running away, running off and doing her own thing instead of staying with the group.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of your characters have individual stories that extend beyond just your small group. And I think you guys are starting to deal with some of those consequences of your past. Obviously, our next session tomorrow is going to be leading back into a lot of those issues. So I think you guys are all going to kind of be facing some challenges ahead that are going to be putting a lot of into question, especially when you're dealing with your peers. So it'll be interesting to see what Toni thinks of Suseel and HX going forward, because a lot of their stories are going to start cropping up again. And even Ni-Ella, who has a little surprise for everybody tomorrow, so that'll be interesting. Carek won't be joining us, but we'll get time for him to build his character for sure. So let's move away from your character for just a moment and let's kind of focus on what do you think good role play means to you in the tabletop game. I know we might have already asked that, but perhaps maybe just now that we've kind of gone over those questions again, maybe you have something else you'd like to add to that.
Well, the reason we get together for role play is to have fun, to enjoy each other's company. And that to me is the number one thing. Yes, it gets stressful because we get into our characters. We feel our characters in a lot of cases. So when they're in trouble or even when they're not, we go through those emotions a lot of times. And I think that's actually enable enables us to be better role players is when we're actually feeling our characters, when we're feeling the scene. Um, yeah.
No, that's great. And how do you balance kind of staying true to your character with adapting to unexpected story twists or party dynamics?
Well, though I've got 20 some odd years of practice, I still struggle with that. I so I do my best to keep the two separate. It does not always work. Will accidentally at times take information I shouldn't have out of character, or not uh, reverse that, please. That I have out of character, and I'll bring it in character. Uh, uh, yeah, my brain just went blank.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm putting you on the spot. That's the whole point of this, is to hopefully give everyone a chance in our little party, an opportunity to talk about their role play experiences, their character in our Star Wars Edge and Empire pen and papers. So, and you're kind of like the guinea pig, so kind of put you on the spot today. Don't worry
Squeeze,
about it.
squeeze, squeeze.
So, let's just continue with that line of questioning. Um, what's been one of your favorite in character moments or emotional scenes with Oola or with one of your the other players? Like maybe there's a scene that you weren't maybe involved in, but you really liked watching it unravel.
I have to say, I've really been enjoying watching Ni-Ella grow. Um, Her first interactions when we were down under the sea in the facility where Ula ended up defending her, keeping herself between Ajax and um, Niella and the enemies. But before that, the intricacies that I see Niella being able to portray, the curiosity, I just, yeah, I'm really, really impressed with her, where she's been taking her character. And each time I get to interact with her as a, like, as Ula, they've, there's like a chemistry, at least on my part, there's a chemistry between the two. And I'm looking forward to see how the two of them actually grow either together or apart.
Speaking about RP and watching other people's scenes, how do you prepare mentally before a session? Do you stay in character prior to getting into the session, or do you kind of just like ease into it as things start up?
Well, I'd love to say that I stay in character, but half the time um, I'm reading what we did before to remind myself because I have a very bad memory. Um, and then I'll get into character. The other half I do ease in. I prefer it when I can be in character before we start. That way, like I'll usually pull up pictures. I'll pull up visuals for myself. That way, that keeps helps me stay in character as we progress.
That's excellent. And kind of move away from like the philosophy and style of role play. We'll go kind of into the themes and world building of Star Wars. I know that you and I met back in Star Wars Galaxies on the Eclipse server. So Star Wars kind of found you before I did. So with that said, what kind of draws you to the Star Wars universe? And as far as like storytelling, like what drew you to initially want to role play in Star Wars Galaxies so many years ago?
Well, I had a background with other HTML um, role play at the time. That was a big part of my life, but then I had stepped away from it for a while. Things happen in life and so forth and so on. So, um, my roommate at the time happened to get me Star Wars Galaxies as a birthday gift. I'd never played any MMOs. The only our role play I ever did was the HTML. So I didn't know the difference going into this that you had the option to not role play in the game. My roommate was a role player, so that's how I was introduced to it. Which I know it sounds very strange to a lot of people, but I was in my mid 30s at the time when all this happened.
I know, because we've known each other for what, almost 20 years? Almost? Maybe? And we always get
Right
mixed
around,
up on that for sure.
right around the 20 mark. Yep.
Um, so, because you've been role playing in Star Wars for as long as you have, and you've played a lot of Star Wars games with me over the years, um, how do you, not as Oola, but as you, interpret the Force? We know that it's mystical and spiritual, but how do you find it? Or do you have like some other type of philosophical or internal rationalization when it comes to the Force? And I'm not talking about lore accurate stuff here. I'm talking about you just individually when we talk about the Force or when we go over the philosophies of the Force, whether it be unifying um, or anything of that sort. What do you think of it um, as a being, entity, religion, faith? What do you look at it when someone says the Force?
I think of spirituality. Um, I know a lot of, uh, well, I shouldn't say I know. I liken it a lot to the philosophies of many Native Americans, where everything is connected one way or another. Um, I don't know how to describe it though. It's almost like an ethereal or an unseen string that binds both us to nature, to each other. Now, it's not that those strings can't be disconnected. It's not like um, there's this big pool or whatever. And I don't know. I better be quiet because I'm not. My
I'm not.
brain is saying one thing, and my feelings are saying something else, and I'm getting them confused. But let's just leave it as it's a deeply spiritual individual, individual.
Don't have a stroke
Um,
on me, Tony. I need you tomorrow.
yeah. No, it's just my words, not having a stroke.
Okay, well then, as a Jedi for Oola, she kind of walks. There's a fine line with Oola, and I don't know if you've picked up on it yet, but there is like this fine line between peace and there is an underlying sense of. I don't want to say that she's attached or she has heavy passions, but there is an underlying thing that's growing that she feels like her. Sometimes her duty could technically lead her down a path if she isn't careful. Because I think there was one scene where you had a vision, and the vision was telling you that, hey, sometimes you have to take the offense to protect the greater good. But for Oola, she always falls back on the defensive. She can't get away from the charges that are under her. And why is that? What's holding her back from saying, "Hey, if I don't take care of these enemies, no matter how much I defend these people, they're going to die. I'm still going to defend them." Like what holds her back from taking the offense rather than just being constantly defensive?
That's actually a very good question. I did sort of notice it, but not to the extent that you brought that up. What holds her back?
Thanks.
Um,
Appreciate all this.
hmm, I really don't know. I think it's probably her inexperience at this point because she's a new knight.
Yeah.
She hasn't been put into that she that situation
Please.
quite yet where
I'll think about what
it's
you said.
one or the other. But she'll always do her best to defend as much as possible.
Yeah, because I mean, you can see like if she's constantly on the defensive, but there's a larger threat out there, how that could get the party in a situation, because you don't want to pull away from like Ni-Ella or Suseel, but by not doing so, your character actually could be putting more stress on the party. So, do you think this is something that Ula's going to eventually have to try to overcome, or is this something that you think she's going to be struggling for some time until something actually bad happens?
Um, I would like to say she'd learn better before that, but who knows? I don't like to prejudge those types of things because I don't know. Sometimes when I'm role playing, um, I go into auto
Old smart like Tal's, huh?
typing,
He's
and
always kept a few secrets up his sleeve.
whether that's a good thing or not, even I will not know the outcome of her reactions at any given time until it happens.
Okay. And what do you think makes Star Wars roleplay distinct from other types of sci-fi or fantasy RPG? Keeping in mind that Star Wars inherently has a sci-fi slash fantasy element to it, anyways. What makes it different for you to say like role play here in a Star Wars universe versus like Final Fantasy 14 or even in our Discord RP where you're playing a Drow? What do you think makes Star Wars unique for you as far as role
For me, it's the sci-fi quality, even though it's sci-fi fantasy. The I think coupled with the amount of lore behind it and growing up
Boggle.
with
Are these what spook Grease?
the Star Wars characters, growing up with this um, during that generation where they first came out. So to get to watch all of it grow as well, it's been phenomenal. The amount of information sometimes is an overload even, but that's not a bad thing in my mind.
play? Well, I know the next question I'm going to be asking you is going to kind of put you on the spot because you've always said that lore is kind of your weak point when it comes to Star Wars, no matter how many decades now that you've put into Star Wars. But if there is one lesser known part of Star Wars lore that you would like to see played through Ula's story, what would it be?
Ooh. Um, I'm not sure.
There's not one. Maybe her tribe.
Well, that's what came to mind is perhaps her tribe or how um, she lived back on Ryloth. Uh, I would like to have her go back to Ryloth, whether it's not whether she sees her parents or not. That's a totally different story. But yeah, I think uh, spending more time on Ryloth with its lore, um, because they also have their own religion that is very, in some ways, very similar to Jedi. I think
Dusty and abandoned.
being able to look upon that as well would be fun.
Nice, yeah. Ryloth's one of my favorite planets too. It's definitely one of the underutilized worlds in Star Wars, except for Star Wars Clone Wars, where they actually did have some time on there. So that was nice to see. Um, Great. And well, let's go into like the growth of Ula. How has Ula changed since our first session in Edge of Tomorrow, where you were still on the in the Jedi Enclave off in that off world that we created? How far has she come since that first session? How far do you think she's come since that first session?
Well, she's had to have come a little bit further because um, she's now a knight. Now, personally, she's a new
That's
knight,
not moving.
and that shows quite a bit in her actions, how she perceives things. Um, but I think she's a little bit more confident, or she has to be, anyways. But she's more confident in herself, but she's also um, I'm not going to say less reliant on force. The force, she realizes that the force is there, guides them, but it's not everything. It's not the be all and end all of everything she does.
Never look when you can leap.
Okay, and what have you learned about yourself as a player um, through portraying Ula or maybe even other roleplay characters like your new one? I don't know how to say the name, but I'll just call her Cat, I guess.
Cleastra.
Yeah, or even Raya or Nightfall or Carmen. What are things that you've learned by portraying characters through RP about yourself that maybe have either helped you in real life, come over challenges, or maybe even helped you with some creative situations? Like what has role play as a role player provided you with skills that you could apply to maybe your real life? Things that people don't think about when they think of role players.
For me, it has,
Almost
I will
reminds
tell
me
you,
of the Jedi training
it has afforded me to play part of my personality that perhaps in real time I wouldn't have gotten to explore. Um, some of the, and I know that sounds cliche because a lot of us, that's why we role play, is to do that. Um, I don't know. I think there's a joy in my life
What is this place?
that I have to share that I very rarely do um, in real time. So role play allows me to be my silly side sometimes,
Still running down
but
here.
it
Let's see if
allows
we can
me
hit the
to
light.
explore my more serious side as well.
What's that?
All right. And then how do you and other players collaborate when you're building an emotional or dramatic moment in story? Um, you can use any example. It doesn't have to be Star Wars related either. If there's something in your past that helps build like a dramatic story for you as a player, not talking about the others that are part of this question. I'm talking about you as a player. What kind of helps you create that dynamic, that dramatic like engagement with other players in role play? Is it the storytelling? Is it someone controlling the narrative? Is it dice? Whether it's through dice rollers on an MMORPG level or pen and paper or Discord or forums. What drives the narrative for you when you're kind of trying to collaborate and build these emotional dramatic moments?
Well, when it comes to emotional moments, I rely more on myself than I would the dice. Um, though I've started um, using dice more to make the
Not bad.
decisions because I know that I'm going to be a certain way, and I don't always want to be that way. So using the dice, I also find that when possible, especially if I have a big question, is talking to the other character, the other person behind the character on Discord, whether it's typing it out or talking voice channel, just to make sure that I've got the right context. That I tend to overthink everything. So, as we all know.
No, you're good.
So, I like to be able to physically talk to the people just to make sure that we're on the same similar lines. Um, I was going to take this somewhere else and now I don't remember where it was.
You're okay. So we'll just move on. Are there any real world inspirations, books, movies, cultures, philosophies, anything like that that shape you how you role play? And I'm not talking about just Jedi role play. I'm talking about just role play in general. Do you take any inspiration typically from anything in the real world?
Well, I have to say, I never really paid much attention to Critical Role before. I'd watch it once in a while, but then I'd poo poo it. But the newest season of Critical Role has got me enthralled. And I'm going to say that is influencing me more than probably anything else has in the past.
Okay, that's good. I mean, it's perfectly legit to take inspiration from other sources of media, whether it's book, movies, other streaming sites, or even YouTube, or even just reading a book. So I think that's completely valid. Um, so without spoiling anything, where do you see your character in our Star Wars Edge of the Empire story? Where do you see Oola's journey heading? Like, where do you hope, or what challenges do you hope to face as a role player with that character?
Hmm. Well, she she gets enough stress just trying to pilot the ship. But I'm looking forward to her having um to deal more with Carrick and some of his problems right now. I don't know that she will know how, but to be able to come to terms with even people that she doesn't like, doesn't trust. I would like to see her grow and at least try to understand them, if that makes any sense. She herself, I think I want to see her come out of her Shicho niche and perhaps learn something else. Um, we talked about learning a different weapon, so taking that there and seeing where it goes.
Okay, and are you looking forward to maybe facing maybe your first Sith encounters? I know you guys have seen a Sith in our story, but none of you really have actually engaged with a dark side user yet. Is that something you're looking forward to as a player? Your first time as a Jedi that has had no knowledge of the Sith prior? Because remember, in our timeline, they were thought to be extinct because of the previous wars, and because we're playing in this tour timeline, they didn't reemerge until your character was pretty much an adult. So, are you looking forward to that first engagement where it kind of challenges your character's beliefs of what the Force is? Because your character's only faced one side of that teaching and not the full extent of the other side of that teaching, where the Sith believe in a lot of different things, like for example, their chains being broken. They believe in power. They believe in embracing fear because fear kind of drives them forward, whereas Jedi kind of try to control their emotions. They're not emotionalists, but they try to control it. So are you looking forward to that first encounter with a real dark side user?
Um, I'm looking forward to it, but with a lot of trepidation. uh, I have in the past with other characters have done something similar, um, but this is the first time that the Sith are not known. So to face an unknown is very, I guess it's nerve wracking to say the least.
Well, if there's one question you can ask um, another player in your group, and you don't have to make it specific about the player, but what's one question you'd like to know about any of your party members? So that way, when I get them on the stream to talk about their character and role play experience, I can go ahead and ask your follow-up question to them. And even if they hear what the question is, maybe I'll let them prepare a little bit for what that is.
That's not a fair question. You didn't let me prepare that.
Nope, I did not.
My brain freezes when you do this to me. A question that I could ask anyone.
Yep, anyone. And a question that they, no matter who it is, can answer. What is one question that you're curious about regarding role play, Star Wars, fantasy, anything related to, our love for gaming, our love for role play, anything of that nature? What is the one thing that you're curious about regarding the people that you play with in our little pen and paper
My brain has gone completely blank. Oh. I would like to ask HX um, what his motivation from HX was. You know, why a I can't say non sentient, but non humanoid?
Like, are you curious to know why they chose the non-sentient life?
Yes, what made that appealing to them?
Okay, so maybe the question I'll ask whoever's next is, why did they choose the species they chose?
Okay, that sounds good.
Way we can make it a little more broad, because don't know who will accept the invitation next, but I think it'll be a good thing. The more we get these out there, at least more people who stumble upon it, whether it's the future or the present, get to know who you guys are outside of your characters. Because we only give you guys like 4 hours of pen and paper, and they really only get to see your characters, right? So it's nice to see a little bit about the player side of things.
And if anybody's watching this, I'm sorry.
No, I
I was
appreciate
like,
Cersei letting us know our audio is down too, so that was good.
yes, we could have gone on for an hour and not had anything recorded.
No, hey, we went back, we answered some of the questions, so that's great. So I appreciate your time with me, Oola. Gonna wrap up the conversation here with you, and I appreciate you. You're a talented player, especially behind Little Jedi Knight that we got. It's always something special to kind of get to step outside the story for a moment and meet with the mind behind the lightsaber, and this time it was you. And so I wanted to say thank you for sharing your perspective, your passion, and a bit of your own kind of force with us today. And for everyone else watching, don't forget our next live session of Edge of Tomorrow is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you'll join Oola and our other incredible players as they take their first steps through the streets of Coruscant. That's gonna be exciting. Not as So it won't be your first time maybe as your character going through Coruscant, but it'll be the first time out of character. You guys will all be exploring this world. So it's going to be really cool to see what creeps up in the past for each of you. I think it's going to be a pretty unforgettable session. And, well, yeah, until then, I just hope the force is with you. And is there any last things you'd like to say, Toni, before we hang up our little discussion today?
Yes, actually, I would like to thank you. You've been our dungeon master, and I've been with you like role playing again for like 20 years. But the latest dungeon mastering that you've been doing has been so wonderful and so in depth and expanded that I wanted to make sure that you knew that we appreciate the time that you spend, not just the time, but also the expenditure of the creativity that you bring to us. Because I know I for one would never be able to come up with anything close to this. So thank you again for doing that.
I appreciate that, Toni. There's no need, though. I like, just like you guys, I like spending time with the group, and it's actually nice because the way the Edge of Empires system works is that we're all role playing, even the game masters. So while I may not have like a dedicated character, I kind of do. I have Omril, right? But I'm role playing with you guys. I'm role playing all the NPCs and stuff. So this system is a little more cohesive for that. I think Dungeons and Dragons is great, and I think there's a plenty of examples where really in-depth role play can happen in Dungeons and Dragons too. But this system's specifically designed for narrative, so I appreciate that. Well, then I will say my farewells, and go ahead, Toni, and say your goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening.